Hey everybody, Dr. Jason Piken again, and here's my story. This is how I really want to start off the Digestive Diaries, with my story, and to really understand how I developed digestive issues and how I took care of them, we have to go back to the very beginning. My first insult to the digestive system. I was never breastfed. I don't blame you, Mom. You didn't know any better. You thought science and the doctor's recommendations to give me the bottle, the formula was the best thing in the world, so you did your best. But we know now that breastfeeding inoculates the child with the mother's immune system and gives them probiotics, good friendly bacteria that start the whole digestive process and the immune system off properly. So, because I skipped that stage, I was starting off at a slight disadvantage at best. So, what happened next is I had a very common childhood problem, ear infections. So I had multiple ear infections. My mom said I got them at least a couple times a year. And each times of those ear infections, I got antibiotics. Many times I was taking these antibiotics. And what antibiotics do is sometimes they're life-saving and they kill bacteria that are infecting your body and they're necessary. But when you take antibiotics, even once, they can cause damage to your body. They can cause a dysbiosis, an abnormal balance, that's what dysbiosis is, an abnormal balance of the gut microbiota. If you don't know what that is there are literally trillions and trillions of bacteria that live in and on our body. Many of them are found in our intestinal tract. So let's say you're supposed to have a 95% good bacteria to bad bacteria ratio. And you take these antibiotics and then they all get killed off and then they grow back. But this time, instead of the 90-10, they're actually a 70-30 or a 60-40 or gets down to a 50-50. And with each time you take an antibiotic or you eat foods that kill off the good bacteria in your body, what happens is it gives room and space for those bad bacteria to grow. Besides the antibiotics that I had when I was 5 years old, by the way, that ended with a surgery. Very common surgery. I had tubes put in my ears and I had my adenoids removed. Most people don't even really know what adenoids are, but adenoids are a part of the immune system. They're glands in your throat, and they figured, well, if I kept having infections in my ears, I must have this extra part. So doctors decided to get rid of them. Yes, my ear infections did stop, but this is one of the faults of not looking at the entire body. You remove one part which fixes a problem, but now the immune system tends to be compromised, at least in part. Let's say I got past that 5-year-old stage, my ear infections are gone, no more antibiotics, and what happens next? I go living like a typical 5-year-old in America, living in Queens. That's where I grew up in New York City, in the borough of Queens. And my diet consisted of absolute garbage. Not because my mom wanted to feed me garbage. I was an extraordinarily picky eater. There were probably about 15 foods that I like to eat on a regular basis, and those were all that I ate. And as I evolved in age, let's say 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, those foods consisted of like McDonald's hamburgers. Well, I would eat plenty of hamburgers, but I was addicted to McDonald's hamburgers. I ate pizza. I ate fried rice. Not all types of Chinese food, but fried rice. Oh, I definitely liked General Tso's chicken. Deep fried, glazed with sugar chicken, okay, that I would have at least once a week. I had pasta with butter. That's that's probably one of the best things I had. I luckily had peas and broccoli, so I had some veggies in there, but my diet was very limited and it happened to be very crappy. I was exposed to a lot of processed foods. One of the first generations of people in this country to be experimented on, I consider, with the highly processed foods in the supermarket system, rather than going to the butcher and the baker and the candlestick maker, whatever you want to call. But rather than these individual shops where we had high quality foods, we started to evolve into the 70s, especially into these highly processed, sugary, fatty foods that can sit on a shelf for a long time. After a bunch of years of eating crappy and having antibiotics when I was younger, I also hit puberty, where a few years into that, I started having acne. I had horrible cystic acne. I remember one in particular day. This is ingrained in my memory. I woke up in the morning, went to the bathroom, take a look in the mirror, and looked at my face and said, oh my God. I just like crawled back in bed, pulled the cover over. My mom comes to wake me up a few hours later, or a few minutes later, sorry. And she's like, Jason, it's time to go to bed. And I said, Mom, I'm just not going. I'm not going. And she's like, why? I'm like, turn on the lights. And she took one look at me and stared, and like, I think she just tilted her head like that, like a puppy dog look, almost. And she's like, you know what? You can stay home. So what was the fix then? Antibiotics. So I had many years, I'd say 7.5, let's say, cumulative years between young age and teenage years of antibiotic usage. Tons of years of really crappy eating. I finally cleared up, so I was happy to go to college. And what did I continue to do there? Put garbage in my body. I was happy to be free and clear skin by then. So what did I do? I decided to abuse my body with other things. And you can guess what happens in college. I didn't have one digestive problem. I mean, I'm sure I had a stomach bug here and there. I got food poisoning once, and in general, I felt pretty good. Never any bloating, no bowel movement issues. All throughout 26 years of life, I survived really, really well. By the way, at 21, I went to chiropractic college, and I started this health quest. I'll get into the story of chiropractic college in another video, but what happened is my diet started to shift, and I started to get much healthier until the age of 26 years old, that it was almost like that. Now, I know it was gradual, but at 26, it all came down on me. All the years of crappy eating, maybe drugs and alcohol, not heavy drugs, but lots of alcohol, and lots of years of antibiotics and not paying attention to my life in general, caught up to me at 26. Even though I started to change my life around at 21, 22, it wasn't enough to turn the tide of all those bad years of damage. So what happened at 26? I started getting acid reflux. And as a chiropractor, as a health practitioner that believes you should practice what you preach, I refused to live with a chronic problem. Even though I started to change my diet a little bit, I wasn't getting better. And tended to be that when I had really high energy and I was working on people throughout the day and I was really busy, I didn't feel my reflux. But by the end of the day, by the walk home or the bus ride home, I started to just have this sensation. And in the mornings, I'd sometimes feel it. After meals, I'd get bloated. I'd feel the acid really come up on me every once in a while. I would consider it a mild to moderate compared to what I've heard from a lot of patients over the years, but it was persistent and it lasted over a year without real relief. So what did I do next? I found a mentor. Dr. Bland, thanks for being that first one. He changed my diet, he had me take supplements, and what did I do about that? I really didn't listen, because just like everybody else that I deal with patient-wise, well, at least 95% of the patients I deal with, they don't really want to change. They want to come to me as a doctor and have me fix them. They want to just get better because I rub something or crack something in an adjustment or give them a magic pill. But they don't really want to do the work that it takes to really get healthy. They don't really want to understand why their problem happened in the first. So do you know how long it took me to heal from digestive problems, my acid reflux? 5 years. 5 years. And the only reason it took 5 years is because I was too damn stubborn to listen to everything I was reading and researching and what my doctor was telling me. That's it. So one day I got totally fed up with it. It was like a bolt of lightning. I had this reflux and I just couldn't stand living as like a phony. I was preaching health and not living. It took me about 2-3 weeks to really see some results. 5 years of dealing with an issue, and after 2 to 3 weeks, I started to see really significant results. Miraculous turnaround. And of course, there was some after effects where I had to stick with diet changes and stick with lifestyle changes after that. But because it was such a significant turnaround, I didn't have a problem changing my life. I just had to get through that next 2 to 3 weeks. What I'm going to detail in the next video is what the struggles were after that. But my initial story I really wanted to get to you is how I developed all these digestive issues, and I hear similar stories from patients throughout the years, and what it took for me to turn things around. A mindset is really what took for me to turn things around. Sure, some knowledge, we need knowledge, but we also need a commitment. And I hope this video helps you understand that as soon as you're committed, you're already 60-70% of the way of getting better. All you need then is a little knowledge and a little bit of practical application. So I hope that helps. Get ready for the next video.